apparently there are people who are looking at how the Steam Deck sold in 2022 and comparing that to, trying to project what are they going to sell in 2023. And this is coming to us from this website, omida.tech.informa.com, which I never heard of, but this kind of got shared by everybody out there, as it looks like the Steam Deck might hit 3 million units sold by the end of 2023. And my question, the discussion topic, and feel free to let us know what you guys think in chat, but the discussion topic here is, do you think that that is a good number or is that a bad number? Richard, I'm going to start off with you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a great number. I think, of course, it's relative to what you compare it to, right? So you compare it to a console, which I don't think makes sense. It looks terrible, but they don't have any retail presence. They're only in limited markets. They've had supply chain issues to some degree. There are still, I think it was pretty recently that there were 64 gigabytes models in UK that you had to get on a wait list for, like as recent as like a month ago. So those supply chain issues do still continue to some degree. So I think 3 million is amazing. Compared to other handhelds, it's out of other PC handhelds, it's knocking that out of the water. But even compared to other PC hardware or like laptop models, I think it's right in line with that.
Kyle, what do you think about this?
I think it's a great number. I mean, Valve has basically no advertising whatsoever except for the Asia event.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just word of mouth selling 3 million anything is phenomenal.
Yeah, especially when you look at what Richard said, where the whole fact that for the first year you just couldn't buy them. Like people who actually had one were the really, really lucky people who got in early, right up until the very end of the year. Carrie, I know that you do a lot of handheld stuff, and you know a lot about all the different handhelds out there. How does the Steam Deck, let's imagine that this analyst is 100% correct and that they will sell 3 million by the end of the year. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, I got distracted by a shiny thing. That happens with me. Do you think, well, how does this compare to the other devices out there that have been on the market for a while, the other handheld market?
It's it's David versus Goliath. It's so vast. It's like you don't even talk about it. There's other things I sent in our chat.
I'm trying to put it on.
Yeah, that. So if you were to like evaluate the Steam Depot, like seeing what's going on, I have a feed of this, so I always like kind of look at it. But they remove the deposits on Steam Deck stuff. So like pre-orders and other stuff, and how they're doing this stuff. Seems like they're very confident in how they're going to shipping these things. So there's there's hooks on the store that are now being unhooked. So you just buy it. So it's kind of interesting to see like what's going on in the back end of Steam to kind of see where they're looking at this stuff. 3 million units for where it's going is fantastic. That is, I think, a little bit better than I thought it would do my own personal self. If we take a look at anything from GPD, Aya, OneNet, any of these companies, the reality is that they sell around 10,000 units, if that. So when you think about that number, this is orders of magnitude better than what these other smaller companies are doing. However, you look at GPD and they're like 40 employees. So there's not a bunch of them. And there's a cottage industry that built up around Shenzhen where you can go and get all these parts and you're getting very good rates on all of these things that are in trays of 1,000, like as a MOQ, minimum order quantity. So they are in this industry where they're able to build stuff and produce them all at very, very aggressive prices. Even though people are always saying like, the Win 4 or all these other devices are very expensive compared to the Steam Deck. The reality is if other companies were to be doing this previously, it would be double what they were doing now. So it's all very competitive. As Kyle mentioned, with practically no marketing, this is all just word of mouth. They're doing sensational. They're outside of the Komodo stuff and the new stores that they're in locally to in Hong Kong and Taiwan and soon in Japan. Like those are going to be really big. But I think we talked about this before, the importance of being in brick and mortar stores in the US as well, which is going to be something that the Asus ROG Ally is going to benefit from greatly. So yeah, it's marketing is probably one of the bigger things that I think Valve would have to entertain doing for people to really, for us to start seeing real numbers. So 3 million projected by the end of 23 is sensational, and it's orders of magnitude different between the other handheld makers.
Well, Russ, before I get to your thoughts on this, I just have I'm going to add a question into this. Travis Cunningham said in chat, the other devices iterate so often, though. Do you think that that's one of the reasons why they have such a hard time, like, catching? Because people get afraid to buy it because they're like, they're going to upgrade it on me, and I don't know what to do. What do you think, Russ?
Well, I think, a couple episodes ago, we talked about how I don't want the Steam Deck to have a new model coming in the future, right? That I'd rather they work on the one they have. And that's because it's a household name at this point. And, it's kind of like the word Steam Deck means something. When you say Aya Neo, they're like, okay, what are you talking about? 2021, 2022, the Pro, the 2, the Geek, like the Air Plus, the Air Pro, like which one are you talking about, right? And that's in the same time frame that the Steam Deck has been out. And so, yeah, I do think they iterate too often. I just got one in the mail yesterday, the Air Plus, and it's the same damn chip that I've seen in the last 3 that have come out, and it's just a different form factor and a worse battery life. And so I'll do a full review of it later. But anyway, so yes, I wish that they would just stick with one, make it a name, and then kind of roll with that, right? And I get it, make the Pro and stuff. And like Carrie's mentioning, they've got access to all these parts, and so it just makes sense for them, culturally, just to like make another one. We've got all this stuff, we can move forward, and yeah, I would rather they just make one and they keep rolling with it. As far as the sales of the Steam Deck, I think the numbers are fine. The thing for me is they need to just have more region support. So I bet you there's a lot of Australians out there who would like to buy a Steam Deck, and that would boost those numbers too.
You just triggered the comments to explode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I made a video, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was a while back, where I had talked about, don't buy from anybody that's not Valve because you might end up getting screwed in the end. And I'm still today getting comments on that video where people are like, you shouldn't tell people not to buy from anybody that's not Valve because we don't have any other option. I'm like, I understand. I totally get why somebody might want to buy from somebody that's not Valve. I was just saying you might get screwed if you do that. And that's all I was saying. But that is something that a lot of people really get upset about, is the fact that the Steam Deck is in such a limited market. And of course it's because they just can't make them fast enough. And then on top of that, I think that they also are working on, like, they don't have a hardware presence in a bunch of countries like Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo. They already have a hardware presence in all of these countries. They already have all of their partners that they've been partnering with for a really long time. Valve is trying to make those inroads for the first time. Well, maybe not the first time, but you get what I'm saying. And it takes time to get all of that legal stuff checked off. Yes, we've checked that box. Yes, we've checked that box. We've dotted our I's, we've crossed our T's. Okay, now put them for sale in Australia. I do think that Valve will bring them to more markets, and I think it will happen sooner rather than later, but it's not going to be as fast as people want. But here's the question for all of you. Do you think that 3 million Steam Decks sold in 2 years, if the projection actually comes out to be accurate, do you find that impressive, or do you find that to be unimpressive? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. All right, let's move on